I think when you're confined, the more longer that you're confined, I think your energy turns to a bitterness. I think that your outtake on everything is more negative, and you just feed on top of the negativity, as where on the RMU side you don't, because you have things to occupy your time. I think that makes a big play, because when you're back there and you're secluded and you're by yourself and you're left to deal with your demons, like I said, it can work to the worst, because the longer that you sit back there, the more you deteriorate mentally, and that just slides downhill from there.
Grafton kind of took the proactive stance to what the director's vision was, and that was to eliminate the long-term segregation. RMU started in one of our housing units, and the housing unit, it really didn't work in a housing unit. It was tough. It was really extremely hard to manage when it was in the housing unit.
So we decided to move the program into our segregation unit, and I think that's really where we did things correctly. When we moved into segregation, now the inmates, the social dynamic was flopped, and the inmates became the better inmates in the population. They would look out of their cells, and they would come out of their cells, and they would see the other guys on the other side of segregation who were locked up 24 hours a day, or nearly 24 hours a day. I think that social dynamic is very important to what we're trying to create. We want these guys to have that sense of hope. We want these guys to have the mentality that they're not the worst of the worst. They're in that recovery stage.
So in about May of 2015, we made the move. We split our segregation. Half of our segregation houses 25 inmates. Our restricted movement unit houses 31 inmates. They are dressed in oranges along with the segregation inmates, but we keep them half and half. RMU inmates, with the exception of the porters, will go into the seg side, but for the most part, they have their own entrance. We use the fire exit entrance to access the RMU, and the RMU is working out. It keeps the inmates separate from general population. We have programming for those inmates, and they're able to watch TV. They're able to use a JPay, the telephone. They can intermingle with other inmates while in RMU. They're out from 6 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, whereas when they're in B8, they were out from 6 o'clock in the morning. We'd lock them down at 3 o'clock.
I think when you're on the LC side, you kind of feel helpless. You sleep all day, you read all day, you don't really interact with the staff. They come to the door, get away from my door, I don't want to talk to you. But when you're on the when you're on the RMU side, I think the mental aspect of it is different, because now you feel like maybe they do want to help you, because they do come in there and they interact with you, and they do ask you questions, and they ask how you're doing, and they're sincere about it. Is the different part of it too on both sides. Whether they're sincere when you're on the LC side or not, it's a different feeling when you're on the RMU side, because you feel like they gave you the chance to do the RMU instead of just locking you down and dealing with you every 30 days to do your reviews.
Our SMU, it was full. It was full the majority of the time. And it's because we stuck inmates in segregation for any minor rule infraction. So we had guys in there that would do from anywhere from 10 days all the way to 180 days. So it didn't change their behavior. All it did was really, it made them angry. The repeat offenders, I mean, we still have repeat offenders. The same guys are still coming through my RMU as when we first opened it. We have guys that have come back probably on the third time. Some guys it's going to change, some guys it's not. But what it does offer, it offers these guys a chance of hope.
I think if you're treated like an animal, you feel the need to respond as such. And I think when people come to you and they treat you like a human being, and they give you an opportunity to act like a man, I think you feel compelled to act like a man.
you only had enough when you had enough. And that's when I was in RMU and I got to go eat at Chow with my mother. And she had bought all this food and I'm handcuffed. And I couldn't do nothing but look at her cry and say, haven't you had enough? And that's when I told myself, it's like, I had enough and RMU let me see that. I got to eat, actually being in the hole. So being in trouble and being able to have that privilege of eating and seeing my mother cry, that told me a lot, man, that I'm almost 40.
Instead of sitting in a cell for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, however it is until they may have a transfer or an LC is completed, now they have something for RMU where they can actually go to certain programming. Same thing with an offender that has had, say, multiple fight tickets, Rule 19 infractions, that they have the opportunity now, say they need stress management. So now we can do carry guides for stress management, as well as we can have them go to recovery services, on an institutional pass and become more involved in programming.
The majority of our guys are Rule 39s. 39 is huge at Grafton. And to curb this, we sanction RMU and we mandate programs through the RB sanctions.
I was stuck, and I didn't know what to do. I kept doing drugs. There was no hope for me. The only hope there was if I quit on my own. But when they came up with this, the last time I came into segregation, they came up to RMU, and I'm like, RMU. And then it gave me a chance to see the opportunity, like, hey, I can do these meetings, and I can better myself. I don't always have to be high, drunk, and be a bad person. So I came up here today to tell you guys that, RMU is a programming. It's good for the prison. It's one of the best I've ever seen, probably the only one I've ever seen. But it's helped me better myself. And so today I've been sober 6 months straight. And thanks to RMU for letting me go to my meetings. And I never did meetings in my life, in prison or anywhere. But RMU gave me the chance to see that, hey, I want to be sober. And from that, I've been sober since February 16th.